Ghost. Now I come on here, not too much. Excuse me, I just got through eating. But I had to make this video because I'm sitting up here just have nothing else to do. And when you're sitting and you're thinking and your mind is just wandering, you're trying to figure out, you know, the day is shorter. So, it's gonna be 5 o'clock soon and the day is gonna be over. So, I wanted to make a video about black thriving towns that are gone. And they were going for like at least about I say 100 and something years, but um the sad part about it is that when you for me loving my black people and trying to wake my black people because I still don't understand why we're still asleep and why are we not woke and why are we trying to have our black people love white people in a sense of not hating white people because like I said before, the white people of today's generation and even my generation don't understand what their ancestors has done, or they're confused, or they try not to want to remember what their ancestors had done. So they try to leave it in the past or try to throw it in the trash. And my people are doing the same thing. We are trying to forget the past. We don't want to remember what happened to our ancestors. We say we want to move forward, but we can't move forward if we're still chained together. Um, and it's crazy, but if you look at us for the last past 300 years, now we came here in 1608. Well, that's what they say we came here, but they said we came here probably around the 1500s too. But we came here, and yes, we were enslaved. We were sold. Our ancestors tried their best to fight back, but they couldn't. They didn't have a language. They spoke in their native tongue. A lot of them probably did speak English. A lot of them probably did speak broken English because English was in its infancy around that time when slavery came into existence. Because everybody knows England was one of the creation of English, so it came to America, but it was broken English. Um, when the African people were taken in slavery, but to go through what I have learned throughout my now, I'm not trying to say I'm better than anybody or knowing more than anybody, but to love history and to love my people. I love my people. I love my people to death. My people are very, very, very powerful, innovative, God fearing people. Now, like, I don't believe in God, but if there is a God, we are God fearing people. We stand up when we need to stand up, but I think we stand up now for things that we don't need to stand up for because it has nothing to do with us. But we don't stand up for each other like we used to stand up for each other. Like, a lot of people don't want to talk about the past. And that's like the one thing about the past, you got to look at the past of how the past looked for black people. When black people were standing up for each other, even during slavery and even after slavery, even during the civil rights movement and everything else, we stood up with each other. Black Panther Party, Black Militia, all these things we stood up for to value our people and our family and our friends that were all black. And all we did is look at each other today and we don't care because we are afraid of each other. I never seen a people so afraid of each other than black people are afraid of their own culture. We are afraid of our own culture. Like our own people, we are afraid. We're not afraid of the white man. We're not afraid of the Spanish. We're not Spanish. We're not afraid of any other culture. We are afraid of our own culture. That means we will pull a gun out on our own relative or friend or anybody that's black before we pull a gun out on a white person. Or we will rob and steal from our own people instead of us going to a white neighborhood and doing the same exact thing, which we don't do that. We don't go to white neighborhoods. We don't go and do riots in white neighborhoods. We don't rob white people. We don't do that. We don't do that. We got white people live around here right now. Not a damn thing happens to them. But if you hear something else going on, it's black people killing blacks. And I believe that they put the gun in our hands. The white man put the gun in our hands. They put the drugs in our hands. They put the money in our hands. They put everything in our hands. But you know what they did? They blame us, you know, for the violence and the shit that we do, knowing that we have to survive. And blacks have been surviving for 300 years, 400 years. And we are supposed to be survivors. We're supposed to be hunters. You know, we're not savages. We're hunters. We used to hunt in forests and woods, and we used to, train our children how to hunt, fish, do all these things. But we don't do these things anymore. White people still do that shit. White people hunt, train. They got militia. They got all these things. We don't. We don't know how to hunt. We don't know how to do shelter. We don't know how to do fishing. We don't know how to do anything. People will say we can throw a string inside of water and catch a fish, but can we eat that fish? We can shoot a gun and kill a cat or a dog or whatever, and we have to survive, to eat. What I mean to eat, I mean if something happens to this planet and we need to survive, and black people are the only ones left to survive, how we will survive. Now we have primal instincts. We could kick in our past, but our ancestors are the real ones that know how to do these things that we don't know how to do. When they try to teach us, our grandparents, our great great grandparents, or whoever that was trying to teach us how to do these things in the past, we just didn't want to learn. But you got white people will learn the basics of hunting, doing these things, shelter, everything. You see these preppers, they're all white. You see the guys that are out in the woods shooting at trees, defending themselves. They're all white. They're militia. They're clan. They're all these people that know how to protect themselves and defend themselves and know how to hunt. We don't know how to do that because we're so much into materialistic things. Our minds are so blinded by what we can have in our pockets and what we can spend than trying to protect ourselves and our family and our friends or anybody that's another culture of our own culture, because we are afraid of our own culture. Because my friend made this up. He told me, you ever notice that we sit at a table, you got white people over there, you got Asians over there, you got Chinese over there, but you got black people right here. Black people won't let nobody sit at their table. But you got a white family over there, they'll allow anybody to sit at their table. An Asian will go to another Asian person and say, come on and sit next, come on, sit. They don't even know the motherfucker. Come over here and sit with me. Black people won't do that because we're so uncomfortable being around our own people. Because we're so used to being around other cultures and we want to be them. And I always say after slavery, black people always wanted to be like white people. We always wanted to copy them. And we did copy them. We copied their style. We copied them. We never smoked cigarettes. We started smoking cigarettes. We never wore suits. We started wearing suits. We never drove fancy cars. We wanted the fancy car. We wanted to live in a nice, prominent white neighborhood. We tried to move into the white, prominent neighborhood, but they wouldn't allow us to move into a white, prominent neighborhood because they tried to keep us out. But we started building our homes like the white people did. We tried to do everything, try to farm like them. We copycatted everything that they did, like the native, like the whites did the Native Americans. They copied what the Native Americans did. So we copied what the white man did because we were enslaved. So every time we were living amongst our slave masters, we watched how they lived. And we wanted to do the same thing. We wanted the wife, we wanted the power, we wanted the money, we wanted everything they had. So we got out of slavery, we copied everything that they did. You even look at the photos of your great aunts, your great uncles, your ancestors, how they look. They look just like white people, but they were black. They were dressed up just like them. Because we never learned how to live by our own means because we were slaves. We were taught how to live like them. So once we got out of slavery, they never got really upset of us dressing like them because they know that that's the only people that we've been around so long. We copied off of everything they did. We wanted to build businesses like them. We wanted that money. We wanted the white man's currency. So we wanted the white man's education. We got everything that they had. We never had our own education. We never had our own money, our own currency. We never had any of that. We copied everything off of them. We took everything. We took their religion. The religion that we worship, we took their religion and made our own religion because they gave us that religion. We were not Christians. We were not Protestants. We wasn't any of these religions. We copied off the religion because we started reading the Bible. And the Bible was given to us by the white man. The white man built the first church in Africa, underground, in water. They're the first one that told the black people to build a church. They built a church because they brought Christianity into Africa. We took that religion, not just that religion, the Arab religion, and many other religions, which blacks were not even worshiping any religion at that time because blacks didn't have a religion because they only worshiped the gods of the sun, the ground, the earth, the animals, and with anything that they had around them that they worshiped. We took everything from them and we took it for ourselves. Then once God came our God, in a sense, we want to make God black because we think that since we took God away from them, we should make them a color. We should make them black. We should make Jesus black. Then we became Jewish. We became all these different type of nationalities because we never want to understand why can't we be our own selves. We've been trying to look for our identity for almost 300 to 400 years, and our identities is everybody else's identity. Even if we did have a culture of a color that's black was only given to us by the Spanish. They were called Negro. The first black people were actually called Negro because they were Spanish people, and when Spanish people seen blacks, they called them Negro too. So we were called Negro. That means black. So we took that persona of the word black and made our own name. Then we took that and we left that in our life for 400 years, and we never had a flag. Our flag is the American flag, but the African flag is our true flag. But we don't take that flag or the Moorish Muslim flag and take that flag and make that our flag. Why? Because we got so brainwashed in being American. Because this is what happens when you're brought to a country that you don't know nothing about, and you're born into this country, so you were taught about this country, but you was never taught anything outside your country. So if you did come from Africa, they will never teach you about Africa. You could come from Africa, come here, been born, and you could be born in Africa, be a baby, born here as a baby, and never learn anything about your country unless your family teaches you about the country that you came from. But my mother always tried to teach me about Africa because that's why I fell in love with Africa. Because Africa is our true country. But people thinking that no, it's not. We're here in America because people are afraid of being African for some reason because they want to be Puerto Rican, they want to be mixed, they want to be Spanish, they want to be Irish, they want to be all these other cultures that are mixed in our bloodline. But that's through war, enslavement, and that's how incest. That's how we got to be mixed because other cultures meet with other cultures as we leave the island to go and find other places and means they'll find other people there. So we will mix with these people. That's what we've always been. When blacks were in England or in Rome, they were mixing. Even when they were enslaved by the Arabs, blacks were all mixing with Arabs. That's why you see a lot of black Arabs. You see a lot of South Indians, North Indians. They're mixed with blacks because Africans went there. They were the first ones in Asia. Were black people. Black people were in Asia. They were in Rome. They were all over Alaska, Antarctica. They were in America. They were everywhere because they moved out of one country to the next. We moved. We didn't stay and just, oh, let's stay here in Africa forever. No, we moved. Then enslavement came. And once enslavement came, white people needed the money because a lot of England people were illiterate. They were illiterate and they're broke, so they needed money. The only way they could make money is off the backs of slaves. And the Portuguese and the Dutch and many other people that were selling slaves brought the Europeans to Africa. They didn't come into Africa. They went off the coast of Africa to get slaves. They were never in Africa. White Europeans were never in Africa. They were never in there. The Dutch, they were the ones that were in Africa because those are the ones in the English, they were all in Africa because those are the ones that actually were finding gold mines and all that other kind of stuff, and they were actually kicking Africans out of their homes and burning down their homes and doing all these other things to Africans to get them because they found gold, they found oil, they found ore, they found all these resources, and they were kicking Africans out of it. So once the Europeans came to the little island off of Africa, you can even look at it on the maps, a little small little island off of Africa, they brought them to that island so the Europeans wouldn't have to go into Africa and get killed because they were going to kill Europeans. They were killing people in Africa because they were doing the same thing the Native Americans were doing. When the Native Americans came into America, the Europeans were being murdered. The Europeans were doing the same thing. They were going into Africa and they were starting wars. So they had all these wars in Africa and they were murdering and massacring a whole bunch of Africans. The French, the Irish, the Dutch, all of them were murdering Africans. Even they were doing the same thing. The South Indians and the North Indians, they were doing the same thing. And they put them in slave. They had them in slave chains. They had their own people in slave chains. They had their own European people in slave chains. And the thing about it is, a lot of Africans and Europeans were mixed up coming over here as slaves. Once upon a time, Africans and Europeans were friends until the European told them not to be friends. And next thing you know, blacks and whites, after that, they just got dismantled. And now, look at how black people are now. Black people are still trying to grab white people to be friends. We're trying to hold on to that friendship. And I don't know why. We're trying to hold on to something that we never had. And I always will say white people will always be with white people and white people should always be with black people, but we always want to believe that we're something else. We want to drive We want to not drive. We want to go in one side and be on one side because we are afraid of our own. So we'll talk bad about our own people, but we'll talk glorious about a white person. This is what we do. This is what we do. We talk glorious about another culture that's better than our culture. Why did that black person have to do that? Oh, black people are always doing this. But when we talk about another culture, they're not bad people. They're not worse than blacks. How is it that from 300 years of being slaves made us be the most hated people in the world? I just don't understand. We've been hated for almost thousands and thousands of years. We're even hated in the Bible because the Egyptians were black. So how did Egyptians become black? And they're Jewish. They captured Jews and they made them slaves. How is that Egyptians were black? How is it that possible that we were hated in the Bible, but now we are hated in real life? But now they're trying to tell us that black people are the coming of Jesus and God and all this other kind of stuff now because they fear us as they learn a lot. White people know more about black people than black people know about themselves. And they will never ever tell us the truth about us. That's why they're afraid of us seeing shit. Why do you think they have all our items over there in Africa of all our ancient shit? They have them in museums. But when we go there, they lie about them. These archaeologists lie about the shit that they put in these museums that is ours. Our ancestors. And they'll lie about it. They'll lie about the pyramids. They'll lie about white people were kings and queens. They were never kings and queens. They were kings and queens of Europe. They were kings and queens of probably Ireland and all. But they were never kings and queens of Egypt until later down the road when the Romans invaded and the Greeks invaded. And then the Greeks invaded. And then the Muslims invaded. That's it. So how is it for at least for 5,000 years, 6,000 years that Africans ruled over Egypt? For 6,000 years. How all of a sudden white people became so powerful over blacks? Because black people opened the door. Because we are very gullible people. We are very generous people. We will open the door for anybody. But that's what we did. We opened the door for Christianity. We opened the door for religion because religion wasn't even in Africa. It wasn't. People say, oh, it was in West Africa. No, it was not. It was never in West Africa. Stop believing that Google shit. It was never in Africa. Africans never believed in any Lord until they left Africa. Until they went into slavery with the Muslims. And the Muslims were the first ones that had African slaves. And they taught them the religion of the Arab religion, the Muslim religion. A lot of black people are Muslim. There's more Muslim blacks than Christians. There's more Muslim blacks than Christians. And I'm not talking about the Moorish Muslims. When the Moorish Muslims did believe in the different belief of Allah, I'm talking about the Arab religion that was more dedicated on the same religion of Christianity. It's the same religion. It's just a different name. It's just the Bible is read forward, and the Bible's read, the Quran is read backwards. But like I said before, black people will never understand their true roots because they don't care about their truth. I don't care if you're African. I don't care if you're Haitian. I don't care if you're Jamaican. I don't care. You're still black and you're still African because you came from that boat. Your ancestors came from that boat because when they took Africans to Jamaica, they took Africans to Barbados, they got Africans to Brazil, they took Africans all over the world because they had to go from Africa to Brazil to Puerto Rico because Africans were in Puerto Rico too, and they took them up to Jamaica. And Jamaica was really where they sold slaves for them to bring them back to America. They didn't travel across the ocean for 6 months because none of them motherfuckers would have survived. None of them, not even the boats. They had to travel from Africa to Brazil because Brazil was right next to Africa. So why would they travel across 6 months or 12 months to come to America, which they could just go they could cut that in half by going to Brazil, then Puerto Rico, then Barbados, all to the Caribbean, and go right up there to Jamaica. And then from Jamaica, they'll go right to America. It doesn't make any sense to me. And blacks wouldn't believe that they were never slaves. They lived here in America. Africans did come to America. That's why they were called the Native Americans. They came here. Yes, they did. But they also were slaves too. They escaped the slavery. They came over to America to live in America. Yes, their skin color had changed, but they were still dark. Even Christopher Columbus even said he saw black Africans. He said the Native Americans looked black. The Native Americans were African. And he ended up killing them all. And he ended up feeding the children to hungry wolves and dogs, whatever he did, or alligators, whatever he did. And then he went back to Spain and told them, listen, we saw some black people over there. And so he never returned. He never returned after he killed all them Native Americans that he met, and they gave him golden spears as a gift, and he murdered most of them. See, this is what we had problems doing. We never understand our history because when our history is taught, we are taught the history of the history they want us to know. But the real history is people want to not want to learn because people are afraid of the truth. And I always tell black people are the most feared of the truth, than knowing who the fuck they really are. White people don't care. Puerto Ricans don't care. Any other culture don't care because they know what they represent and what their flag is. African people can't go back to Africa. White people can go back to England. They can go back to they can go back to anywhere they fucking want to go to. We can't go back to Africa. The Puerto Ricans go back to Puerto Rico, the Caribbean. They can go back anywhere. The Jamaicans, Puerto Rico, any culture can go back where they used to be. Even if it's war, after the war ends, they can go back. A lot of these Ukrainians can go back to Ukraine. A lot of these people can go back to Sudan. They go back anywhere they want to. We can't do that. We can't get back on the boat and let's go to Africa. No, we can't. We can't do that unless we go down there and say, listen, I want to stay here. Well, we got to get some papers. Like we have to do in America. We got to come to America, get some papers, get a green card. We got to do that in Africa. Black people got to do that in Africa. Now, they opened up the door, Africa. But black people started complaining living in Africa. Oh, Africa is not like America. Why do you think you go to another country, they're going to treat you any different because we're African? Your family ancestors were African. They're not going to treat you any different. Like America's not going to treat any of the Ukrainians or anybody any different than they came from their country. They're not going to treat them any different. That's how it is when you go to different countries. You're living in a new country. You're not America no more. But they want to be treated. See, we want to be treated like we should be. See, us black people, we look for people to. We look for sympathy. We look for what our ancestors been through and thinking that the white man needs to take care of us because they put us through that. They don't have to take care of us for shit. They don't got to give us welfare. They don't got to give us child care. They don't have to give us nothing. They can give us zero shit if they really want to. They can take everything away from black people. They can get black people out of this neighborhood right now because white people don't understand. Black people don't understand that the black neighborhoods were never their neighborhoods. The black neighborhood was the white neighborhood first. The white ghetto started first. Then black people started moving in the ghetto after slavery when they started buying land. Black people never lived in a prominent white neighborhood until white people started moving out the prominent white neighborhood because blacks started moving in because they allowed, after redlining, they started letting blacks buy up homes in white neighborhoods, which I'm living in one right now, which this used to be a white neighborhood. Now it's a black neighborhood, which I don't call it a black neighborhood. It's called the ghetto, which it was called the ghetto back then too because white people lived in the ghetto. And once white people left, black people moved in. Now white people are moving back in and kicking black people out because they're doing the development thing again, like they did during Lake Lanier, Tulsa, and all these prominent black Wall Street towns back in like around the 1900s on down to like the 1950s, all got destroyed. They're doing the same thing again, but you know what? They're not going to destroy the homes or burn down anything. They're going to pay black people to leave. If they don't pay black people to leave, they're going to kick them out a certain type of way by destroying something, digging up the street, putting something in the street that's going to mess up the water, make them sick. They're going to do stuff like that. They're going to do something to get us out because they want to move white people back in because white people don't want to live in that suburb no more because they're paying higher, more taxes now. They can come back into the ghetto. They will lower the taxes for white people. And black people are getting taxes getting higher, so we have to leave. And they will buy, a black people will take any type of money to leave. If black people don't give a fuck, it's less money. They don't care. They want to get out of the ghetto. They want to get out of the ghetto, but they know once they go to a white neighborhood, they're not going to be able to stay there that long, and they have to go back to the ghetto. Because the ghetto is not the ghetto, honestly, that's our home now, and we've been here for so long, but you can see what they're doing to the ghetto. They're tearing down all the places that we used to live and rebuilding it. Like they tore down a whole project to put nice little townhouses, which we can't fucking afford. Now they're making these little condos or little apartments on the corners and shit. You're starting to see these little apartments that white developers are coming out and developing to move white people in. And no, you probably won't see these white people as much because they work all the time, or they probably don't live there yet. They'll probably wait a couple of years. They'll probably be in and out a couple of years, or they'll rent it out to somebody, and then they'll come and move in once black people start moving out. That's what they're doing. They're buying up land. They're buying up lots. I said, black people need to start doing that shit. If you don't, why don't us black people buy up shit? Why do we let things just sit there? Because we can't take care of shit. We're not great at taking care of anything. We're not great at, developing. We're not great at money. And when we do get money, we fight over money. We'll fight each other for money. We can't team up with each other to help each other develop something. We can't start a business with each other without fighting and arguing. We can't make $1 billion business come to fruition because we don't like something that's in the business that's going to make us say, oh, we're going to lose money. Motherfucker, we got close to 1 billion. No, man, I don't want to do this no more, man. You stealing. And we want to blame the other person for stealing. We don't trust nobody. Black people, we don't trust anybody. That's what makes it hard for us to help ourselves become rich, like we did back in the 1940s, 1900s on down, when blacks were rich. Blacks were rich and owning their own land, owning their own cars, owning their own business, owning railroads and doing highways. They were owning shit, pressing places, supermarkets, stores, cleaners, laundromats. They were owning everything. They were inventing everything. Remember all the inventions that black people did? All gone now because the white man took the inventions, patented themselves, and made it for themselves. But black people don't understand. All half of these motherfucking things that we use in our home were black inventions. A lot of shit that we use in our homes are black inventions, which you should look them up, because a lot of black people don't understand how did they create it. No, it was no white man created a lot of shit. Black people are the ones that invented a lot of stuff that was stolen from them. And it's the proof, because they have it actually a fucking documentary on YouTube. They probably took it down, but they have a documentary of how black people invented shit. The first black cop didn't have a gun. The first black cop couldn't arrest black people, couldn't arrest white people. The first black cop actually couldn't even go into the fucking police precinct, and they couldn't even sit inside of a car. But this is what we wanted to be. We wanted to be just like them. The first fireman was not allowed to even go out in the fires. And even if the fireman did, he wasn't allowed to see what the firemen were doing to black people by putting them in homes and letting them burn to death. You forgot about the ambulances. People that were actually ambulance drivers, blacks couldn't even be in an ambulance. Doctors couldn't hardly white people didn't even want black people to touch them when they were doing surgery. That's the crazy part. We fought for so long to become something that they didn't want us to be. And to this day, we praise them for letting us be, because we get this white piece of paper that has the white man's name on it that we have been fighting for hundreds of years to get. Hundreds of years. We remember, we were not allowed to go to school. Remember, and I said this a lot, people don't understand Rockefeller created the educational system. Rockefeller. Everybody know who Rockefeller is, right? One of the world's famous trillionaires or quadrillionaires. They say he's probably the richest man that ever fucking lived in America. A quadrillionaire. This family's probably the richest family ever. He's the one that created the educational system. And you know who he created the educational system for who? White. But he had an idea. Let's teach black people our history. And what have we been taught throughout history is their history. Because all I think about when I was a kid, I never learned anything about my culture and my people when I was younger. I'm 50 years old. And I never learned anything about my culture except the little bits of the Native Americans and a little bit of Africans, but they were enslaved. We learned about Harriet Tubman. We learned about Frederick Douglass. We learned about all these other people. We learned about all these black people that were in America. And when we did learn about the people that were black that actually helped America, that was in slavery, that died, they were murdered. Just like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and how they treated Rosa Parks, and how they did all these things to black people. And even because how can you be famous, but you were hunted? You were hunted and you were murdered. Do you ever hear anything about that, about white people? And they're powerful, powerful people? No. They probably died. Yes, they were probably murdered, but it was probably certain things that they did to get murdered, but it was a famous murder. It wasn't like our murders and our people being murdered and killed for no apparent reason, because they were speaking to protect black people or give rights to black people and try to uplift black people, like they did with the Black Panthers, where they tore the Black Panthers down in pieces. And many other black organizations that were trying to protect their own citizens. Like, they always say they were gangs, but cops are gangs. You know, they created the gangs of the Bloods and the Crips, but the Bloods and the Crips were actually not even a gang. They were just people that helped their neighborhood. And then it became a gang later down the road. But cops were still gangs, because cops started from slavery. The military started through slavery. They were called the militia. They used to get people, they would have their own people in their own neighborhoods that had slaves. If they were escaped, they would have them people hunt their own slaves. And it would get paid. And they had insurance on slaves. The first insurance was on slaves. So if a slave would die, they will get a payout. The owner will get a payout. This is what we got insurance now. Everybody bitching about their insurance. Black people bitching about their insurance every fucking day. They don't know that's what started through slavery. Because they used to have Africans get escaped. They would get the militia or the sheriffs, which they would call them, or slave hunters, which they were the first police because they were the first ones to wear badges on their chest. They will go and hunt black people, and when they hunt them, catch them, if they would die in their presence, and they will go back and tell the slave owner that he died, the slave owner would say, "I don't worry about that. I'll make some money." They make some money off the insurance company, but the insurance company stopped doing that, stopped giving out money to dead slaves because they thought they were stealing. So they stopped making money off it. They stopped giving out money to dead slaves. That people like the slave hunter would get the slave and he died during that time to catch because the dog would maul him to death, or they would shoot him, or the slave would try to escape or fight back. They'll kill him or her or the kid, whatever. And then they will go back and try to get the money, not because the slave hunter wants to get paid, so he or her that owned the slave will get paid through the insurance, and they will pay the slave hunter through the insurance. But they stopped doing that shit back then. But that's how we bitch and complain about insurance. Black people bitch about it, but we're the ones that were actually the first ones insured, like property, like assets. We were an asset. We were a property. Our ancestors were assets of property, so we could be sold at any time. Like slaves were like 500,000, not 5,000, it was like 5,000, 3,000. If you got a strong man, he probably worth 3,000. If you got a strong woman that's fertile, she's about the most, because the woman was worth the most. They were probably like $6,000 or $7,000. Children were not worth that much. But if they were children like 8 or 9 years old, very strong, little girl, very fertile, and them white men were very nasty back then, so they will go after them little ass kids, and they will do the same thing they would do right now, but they never talk about that. But they did do the same thing that they do now. It's nothing different. But the fear that I have as black people, when you talk about things like this, black people hate black people telling the truth. They don't like when you speak the truth. They don't. Why are you talking about that? Why are you this? Why are you that? Why are you so? Because you know what? I want black people to understand what we have been through for 400 years, which black people don't understand. We're still living that same type of shit to this very fucking day. We are not living free. There's no such thing as freedom in America. It will never be, because black people were never the ones supposed to get freedom. Why would they give us freedom for something that they told us that they didn't want us to be released as slaves? The Republicans and the Democrats fought to keep slavery going, especially the Democrats. The Democrats wanted to keep slavery going. They hated the fact that slaves were going to be freed. That's why blacks were Republican. Blacks were Republicans for a very fucking long time, until Roosevelt came out of nowhere and changed over the Democratic Party for black people to join the Democratic Party. Because black people were Republican during Lincoln's reign. And when Lincoln died, blacks stayed Republican. And they voted Republican. How do you think fucking Martin Luther King got in office? Black people were voting. They were voting Republican. Because my fault. Democrat was my fault. My name was Democrat. But I'm saying Democrats did not want black slaves to be freed. They had to have a vote because Lincoln was a Republican. Lincoln needed a certain amount of votes. You can watch the movie Lincoln. The movie Lincoln comes on TV. You watch the movie Lincoln, they'll tell you about Lincoln. Lincoln tried to get even his own party. He tried to get his own party to vote. His own party wouldn't even vote. The Republicans wouldn't even vote for freedom of slaves. And the Democrats hated the fact. They hated women too. They hated women. The Democrats hated women. They hated women so much they used to laugh when they said, "Well, what do you think of women getting into politics?" Ha 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 ha. Oh, you don't think women will ever be in politics and be in the Oval Office? Well, we almost had a woman that was over in office, but like I said before, we almost had 2 women that was almost in the Oval. Well, 3 women, because there was a black woman that actually ran for president in the 1960s, I think. So we had 3 black women, 3 women, 1 white, almost been in office. But they laughed at women being in office, being in politics. And this is Democrats. And even Republicans laughed too. Because they feared the woman, and they hated the woman. They hated blacks. They didn't want blacks to be free. Lincoln didn't even care about black slavery neither. He didn't care. He didn't care if blacks were slaves or not. He needed to win the fucking war. So he needed bodies. So he thought black people would have been a great investment of fighting wars. But he used the greatest line in the world to free slaves. Because he had to. Because it was no other way black people were going to fight. Black people were going to fight for freedom. They're not going to fight a war that has nothing to do with them. Because once they fight the war, they might have to be put back in slave chains again. If it would have lost, yes, that would have happened. But black people didn't understand that Lincoln didn't free slaves because he freed slaves because he liked blacks. And he wasn't black. And once people start thinking he was black, he was never black. He was a white fucking Jew. He was just tall and dirty. But he wanted to free blacks because he thought that he could use that as his next election. He got reelected after blacks were freed. blacks elected Lincoln president again because he got reelected. That was during the reelection. People don't understand. They don't talk about that shit. It was after Lincoln had the war because he almost died during the war. He was very, very sick. Everybody thought he was going to die anyway because he was sick. The man fucking got reelected. And guess who elected him? Black people. Because they were voting for him. Because remember, the war was over. They were free. They could vote. Men only vote. Women were not allowed to vote. Even in any culture, women were not allowed to vote. They wasn't allowed to be in the ticket booth offices or anything like that. That's like how they did the religion. Some women were not allowed inside the church. They were allowed only in a separate church for the men, just like any other religion that was separating women from the church. They did the same thing with fucking voting. Women could not vote. So men, because women had no rights. So women couldn't vote. So men, only ones could vote. And they voted for Lincoln. Lincoln got reelected. That's when he died. And then blacks were just shipped all over the fucking place because blacks were so confused and didn't know where to go. They really, honestly, black people wanted slavery to go back, and they were actually trying to put slavery back in again, but they couldn't do it because that paper was signed. It was in by law, so they couldn't do it. But they all over the country was trying to keep slavery the same way. They were not trying to get rid of slaves. A lot of whites hid their slaves. And they said that they freed them, but they really didn't, and they kept them, but they made them probably part of the family, and then, they lied to them, and they let them be buried in their fucking graveyards and all this other kind of shit. It's some weird shit that the white people were doing for black people to try, because they were so used to having power over black people that they didn't want to lose their power. And when they lost their power, they cried. A lot of slave owners cried because they lost everything, because now they couldn't use blacks to make money, because a lot of white people went broke after slavery because black people could not be slaved no more and couldn't be enslaved. But that's why they made prisons. That's why they made prison cells for black people, because they didn't make prisons until after slavery. They had jails, but they started making prisons. So they needed, and the chain gang really started in Africa, not in America. You see the chain gang, the people be walking around picking up shit off the ground. That started in Africa. When they started taking African slaves and taking them to the boats, they used to have them in line in chains. That was a chain gang. And they brought the name here to America. They called them the chain gang. You see all the motherfuckers sitting outside with chains on their legs, but they don't do a chain gang like that no more. They'll let they'll have handcuffs, but they won't be all, what I mean? They could be able to move around a lot more freer than they did back then. But they did that to Africans. They used to take Africans to New Orleans. They used to take them to Texas. They used to take them up upstate New York. They used to take them up there in Florida. They used to take them in places that people wouldn't even care nothing about them. They will kidnap you. They will go actually up to the free slaves up in New York, kidnap them, take them back down in the South. That's how bad it was for us as a people. And to this very day, we are afraid of cops. I say, why are we afraid of cops? The cops ain't afraid of us. They pretend that they are afraid of us, but they're taught to go after the first person they see that's not the same color as them. And I don't give a fuck if they are black. The cop would go after the same person that's not their color because they were trained that way, just like the military. The military is trained to go after a certain person, not go after and help. Cops are not trained to help anybody. They're not trained to help anybody. They're trained to defend and protect themselves. That's what they're trained for. That's why they have a gun on their hip. That's why they got a taser on their hip. They're not there to protect the public because honestly, cops are public servants. We are their bosses. They're not our bosses, and cops know that. They just want to use authority over us because they feel that they have authority over us, which they really don't. By the law, cops don't have authority over nobody. They could tell a person what to do when they have them arrested or they have them contained, but they can't do anything before that. They can't go in their car. They can't do nothing, but they have power. That's the reason why they created the cop system, because it started in England and it worked its way to America. The East Coast was the first really, honestly, to have cops. So Philadelphia was really the first city to have cops. And Philadelphia was racist as shit at that time. So they were locking up a whole bunch of black people. They were lynching them. And then the South come along, have a whole bunch of black people being lynched by cops. That's how it was. And to this day, it's by slave catching. It started, if you don't believe me, you can look it up. It started in slave catching. That's how they have the badges. The badges you see on cops today are the same badges you see on slave catchers and the militia. Because they had to wear badges on their shirts or whatever they had their badges are. Where in sheriffs were the same thing. Before sheriffs became sheriffs of towns, they were slave catchers. They were former military. They were former militia. They were former something that they used or they paid to go after slaves. And they used to wear a badge because that's the only way that you could actually be a slave catcher, if you wore a badge. And that's what they wore. You can even look it up right now and find the same badge of a police officer and a slave catcher, it's the same fucking badge. The same fucking badge. I wish I could post that shit. I think I did post that. I think YouTube took it down. Because like I always say, people, like I said, when you start telling the truth, like when they say people are woke, I'm trying to figure out what the fuck does that mean? What does woke mean? Do people are woke because they're hearing the truth? Or is the lie the new truth? If people so obsessed with the lie that they can't, they hate the truth, like when people say you're a snitch because you are telling the truth, or you just can't tell the truth anymore because if you do, you'll get, you won't no friends. A lot of people lose friends telling the truth. Because I remember back when I was growing up, a lie was so disrespectful. You couldn't lie to your mom. You couldn't lie to your grandma. You couldn't lie to your sister, family. You couldn't lie. They would disown you if you lie. Today, you don't get no disownment from being a liar. Actually, you'd be more accepted. Now, you'll probably be a little hurt because that person lied, but you won't be more hurt if that person tells the truth. It's like me going telling like your man slept with that girl over there. You will be very upset at me because it's the truth. Now, if I lie, no, my homie didn't sleep with me. I'm joking, dog. He didn't sleep with me. I'm lying. But he'll be like, oh, thank you, man. Thank you for lying. Because lying is more acceptable today to the truth. Because you can see it online. You can see it online. The lie is more acceptable to the truth. And people gravitate towards liars today more than they did back when I was growing up. Because if you were a liar, you were disowned. If you were a liar, you're going to jail. If you were a liar, you probably get some bullets in you. You know what I mean? Because if you did something to somebody, you were caught in a lie, you're going to get your ass whipped. Today, people will beat somebody's ass for telling the truth. And people will disown somebody, hate somebody, dislike somebody because somebody tells the truth. That's why I said black people are the only people that hate the truth. We hate it so much. We despise the truth. We run from the truth. And if the truth is sitting in front of us, we deny it. Because we hate the fact of what we were, what we was back in the day. That's why we don't like bringing up the past. White people talk about the past all the time, man. When I was back in 1966, when I was 1948, when I was fighting in the Korean War, I shot 15 people. We won't talk about the past. I have friends that will just get mad at me because I talk about 20 years ago, and it hurt me because I'm like, why are you mad? I'm talking about 20 years ago or 30 years ago. We have people don't understand. Life repeats itself. Everything repeats itself. We don't live a day not having the same thing repeat itself. It's just that we don't see it as that way because we are blind. But we had to talk about the past because that's the only thing that really I enjoyed was my past. I'm 50 years old. Why am I enjoying my future? What future am I enjoying? I'm old. I'm sick. You know what I mean? And I'm on disability. Like, why the fuck am I sitting up here enjoying my future because I got a short life? My life might be shortened. My life is shortened by every day. Like back then when I was 20, 30 years old, my life wasn't shortened. You know, I had a better life when I was younger. I had an enjoyable life. I had fun. I did more. I went to clubs, bars, parties, all that. Had intimacy like almost every fucking day. Hotel parties, all that shit. Why am I trying to forget that shit? Tell me, why am I trying to forget my past? Why is the older generation don't forget their fucking past. They talk about the past more than they talk about their future. They talk about the 1970s. They talk about the 1950s. They'll talk about the 1900s. They'll talk about shit that they went through and enjoyed because they enjoyed their time being young, even though it probably went through racism, hatred, a lot of things that went on in their time, but they'll enjoy the things that they did. Why do people don't want to talk about the things they enjoyed back then, but don't want to talk about the past? Because our past is our best time of our life. Now, I know we have kids. I know we get married, but we still think about the shit that we used to do before we used to go and have all these things before in the future? Because I remember before I was getting some booty every fucking day. And that was just that was the excitement and joy of being young, energized, playing football, playing basketball, playing sports, you know, enjoying the 90s, during the 80s. That was fun. Everything was new to us back then. Today, this generation see everything new to them now. But we have the things that they have now. It's just updated. We had the cell phones. We had the computers. We had the laptops. But it wasn't like what this stuff is today because everything is fucking updated or remade. But our stuff was genuine. We had genuine shit. We had the real food. We didn't have all this steroid shit in our food. We didn't have all this fucking sugar in our food. We didn't have all this shit. You know what I mean? We actually did healthy shit. We actually had things that will try to help make us healthy. We are forced outside to play. We were forced outside. I mean, that son hit that fucking pole. We had to come the fuck in. We had to do our homework. And then we do our homework. We didn't do our homework. We're going to stay up all night, do our fucking homework. We were forced to do things. Today, kids don't have to do all that shit. They're not forced because they'll get in a fight with their mom and dad, leave their mom and dad, run away, or say their mom abused them or something like that, call the cops on them. But we didn't do that because we respected our parents. We were respectful kids back then. Even the generation before us taught us respect. We learned from our elders to respect. We don't do that today. That's why I said blacks are different than whites, because black people had lost respect for things that we used to do because we don't want to talk about it no more. That's why we don't have good memory about anything. I bring up memories to people a lot. They don't want to remember what they did 20 years ago because they feel that something's bothering them 20 years ago. Like something happened 20 years ago that bothers them. Me, things happen to me all the time. I was bullied, beat up, picked with. I don't care. But I think about the good things that happened to me 20 years ago. The things I missed back in there, like the malls, the toy stores, the video games, the candy, the sweets, the women, the old Walkmans, the CD players, like things that I missed, the big boom boxes, rap music, things that we enjoyed, we don't talk about anymore because we try to distance ourselves from that because we want to see this dumbass future of technology, which is destroying and ruining us, because technology didn't ruin us back then, because we could just put the technology down and move on and do other fucking shit. We can't put technology down today. We're always around technology. We're always looking at technology. We can't put down the cell phones like we could put down our cell phones back then, or put down our radio, or put down or turn off our TV and read a book. We don't do that shit no more. We don't even read books. You know what I mean? We don't even go out and play. We don't go, like people say we're grown, but we still are kids in heart. So we still can go out and do things. Just because we're grown, that don't mean our soul still is young. Remember, we have a young soul that never gets old. Our soul never gets old. Our bodies get old, but our souls don't get old. It stays young forever. So why the fuck do we need to change our whole self for our age? It doesn't make any sense. So we will stop doing the things that we used to do and have fun because we're old. I want to still have fun. I still want to enjoy my life. Why I'm still here. Why be bored and not have nothing to do, which is hard to do things after the pandemic, because the pandemic really destroyed every fucking thing. That's why I think it was created for, to destroy our way of existence and having fun, to trap us to not enjoy ourselves, because we can't enjoy ourselves anymore because everybody's afraid to go places and afraid to go out and do things because it's just how it is now. It's crazy. And it's not just for us, our country, it's for every country around the world. Because the shit that's going on nowadays around the world, people are not doing anything anymore. People are not going anywhere. People are afraid to be outside because they're shooting. Man, I'm going to tell you something, right? When I was younger, they were shooting too. And they were shooting every day. We used to go out fucking side. After the shooting was done, after they did a drive-by, my mom would tell us to go back outside. And it'd be kids all outside again, jumping rope, catch a girl, freak a girl, hide and seek, manhunt. And next thing you know, 5 minutes later, they start shooting. You see the cops pop out of nowhere looking for the guy that shot up the block, but we out there still playing. We wasn't afraid to play out when bullets were being shot up. We wasn't afraid of that because bullets wasn't, we knew people got shot and killed. We were saddened by that, but we still were kids. These kids are sheltered. Like, these kids are actually sheltered. And we were never sheltered. Our parents never sheltered us. Our parents made sure that we didn't get hurt. They cared about our well-being, but they wanted us to go outside and be kids. They wanted us to play. They wanted us to be energized. They wanted us to go out there and do stuff with ourselves. Instead of sit in the house all fucking day, watch TV, which didn't have that many channels, play video games, which didn't have that many video games. And we did not we actually have friends that we can go up the block, knock on the door, go in their house, sit there and talk to their parents, eat food at their home. We can't do that shit no more. Especially our kids. Our kids are afraid to go over somebody's house. Or we are afraid to let them go over our house. We are afraid to let them go to the store. We are afraid to let them go outside and play. That's the horrible thing about being a kid today in this generation than us being kids back then. Even the baby boomers. The baby boomers tell you they shot and kill people every day. They've been around bodies. And like they didn't go outside and enjoy themselves after the coroner picked up the body. They went back out there and played where the person got shot at. They probably found the gun and started playing with the gun. But that's what I'm saying. We, as black people, we try to forget things. We just want to just not be, we don't want nothing to do with our past. Because like Tupac said, do not talk about my past. It was all bad. How is your past all bad? I believe your past should be your greatest memory. Not your future, because what do you see in your future? You're old. All I see is being in a casket somewhere or being inside of an urn. That's it. I'm 50 years old. That counts down your life. Being 50 and then you go 60, then 70, unless you make it to 100, yeah, you did some good progress. But why do you want to be living in the world of being sheltered? It's unfair to us because we never lived like that. That's what I'm always trying to figure out. Us kids never lived sheltered. We never were sheltered people. We never lived in the crib and stayed in the crib all day long and not do a goddamn thing. We always had something to do. Now they closed off every club. They closed off every bar that we probably went to. The malls are gone. That was the Kitty Cities, the Toys R Us. They got all these stupid ass malls that the tariffs went up. We can't go out shopping and buy shit now because everything's expensive. Eggs. We can't go food shopping. We can't do stuff like we used to. That we used to have fun doing. Now that's just been taken away from us, and it's a shame. Like us black people don't have nothing to do except kill each other. Because we can, that's why I always say black people need to be outside more than any other culture because we are the only ones that sit around and we think about hurting each other. We'll go out there and rob people, shoot up places. We're not worse than white people because white people will shoot up a whole motherfucking school or do some crazy shit like their whole family. But us, we only take it out on people that we feel that we need to take it out on because we're unhappy with ourselves. Man, we are very 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 unhappy people, and because we are considered slaves to the white man. Like you heard what Trump said. Trump said that he wants to do martial law on black neighborhoods because he said black neighborhoods are the biggest criminal, have the most crimes for black neighborhoods. He wanted to put martial law on black neighborhoods, not white neighborhoods, black neighborhoods. So they're making us look like we're bad, and next thing you know, black people are going to start looking at black people as the enemy, and we're already looking at ourselves as enemies right now. Not the white man. The white man's not an enemy no more. They used to be our enemy, but we befriended them. Well, we didn't befriend them. They befriended us, pretended like that they're our friends, and all they're going to do is just take, and they can get rid of us anytime they want to. They can get rid of us anytime they fucking feel like it. Black people don't understand. We are on the head of the food chain, dog. We are so going to be the ones taken away from this island because they can make us the absolutely population zero if they really want to. They could have did that years ago when they could have took us back to Africa after slavery, which they tried to do that. They tried to send us to Madagascar. Just like when Hitler was trying to do the same thing to fucking the Jews when he was trying to send them to Madagascar. He never tried, the Europeans were trying to, America was trying to send Africans to Madagascar after slavery. But see, they knew they could make money off of us. They knew that money was us. We built this country along with other immigrants and other people that came to this island, or people that owned this island, which was the Mexicans and the Native Americans, owned this island. And you got the Japanese, the Chinese. They came here and made money, and they built this country off the ground, off the money that they made, or the gold that they found. They made money, and blacks did the same thing. We started digging for gold. We started making money. Started doing Black Wall Street. We started making money. White people started being broke, and white people hated that shit. That's why they went into our towns and destroyed them because they were jealous. They weren't just jealous of our culture. They were jealous of other cultures too, because they wouldn't have did some things to other cultures too. They did it to the Mexicans. They did it to the Puerto Ricans. They did it to the Asians. They did it to the Japanese. Once the war started in Japan, or when they bombed Pearl Harbor, the United States went into these little small towns of China, the Chinatowns, snatched up all the Japanese and put them in concentration camps. And once the war happened with Mexico, a few times. The first time it happened in Mexico because Mexico didn't want to sell Texas and California. And guess what happened? The United States invaded Mexico with their ships, bombed Mexico, took Texas, and took California, and took New Mexico. And when Mexico wanted to rebuy Texas, the United States said no. That's why Mexico built the border wall. Then, guess who refurbished the border wall? Was America. But you know what they always say, that Mexico was the bad country, but the American wasn't. But Mexico didn't invade America. America invaded Mexico. That's why they had these Mexican wars. And they had blacks that actually fought Mexicans during the Mexican War. They used to dress blacks up in uniforms and military uniforms, and the hat, the gloves, the black jackets, and make them have not just Native Americans, because they were hunting Native Americans too. Africans actually fought Native Americans too. They actually made them fight Mexicans. That's what blacks did. Because like I said, blacks were illiterate. And I always say blacks were illiterate. Don't you understand? Blacks didn't know any type of history. They didn't have no type of education. You know how long it took black people to get educated? almost 4 or 5, almost 300 years to be educated. Remember, they couldn't read a book. They couldn't write anything. They wasn't allowed to be seen with a pencil. They wasn't allowed to see with any literature except the Bible. So basically, they had to learn from the Bible English, and they had to learn from the Bible of how to communicate through by saying, if you ever listen to them speaking in the South, they talk like they're from a church. If you hear from people from the South talk, they talk like they're from church, because that's how they learn how to speak is through the Bible. If you read the Bible, you can actually talk just like the people down south, because that's how they spoke. Because remember, they used to cuss all the time, but the thing about it is they will always learn from the Bible because that's the only book they could read. That's the only literature they were allowed to read, but they weren't allowed to have the Bible in their house. They were only have the slave master was only the one allowed to have the Bible, and they will have it in a church, or they will have the Bible in their home. And if they had to go to Bible study, they will have to go to the slave master's wife to do Bible study, and they will go to church because the men will go to church separate from the women, and they will learn about God because God is a man. So that's how they will learn about God. Women really didn't learn about God too much. Men learned about more about God because God is a man. God was the woman. So women were not really allowed to worship God because they wasn't allowed to worship men, but only their husband, because they believed their husband was God. White man believed they were God because he told the slaves, I am God. You will learn this book. We're giving you this book. You will learn about God through this book, and you will worship me as God. I am your God. So our ancestors worshiped their slave master as God because they told them that they were God. And this is true. This is all facts. You can read it. You can look it up your damn self, because I'm not saying this stuff to be saying. You can go and look it on YouTube. YouTube probably took a lot of that shit down. You know what Google does. Google don't like you learning about shit. Like even during the pandemic, they were taking shit down from the pandemic, so you can't learn shit. Because once you start hearing and start reading and learning about the truth, even if you go on the dark web, you can learn anything about it. You can learn anything about the truth about the dark web. But if you go and learn things, they will tell you that you're lying. Oh, they'll give up some fact check bullshit. What's up with this fact check bullshit? That really drives me fucking crazy. They think everything has to deal with fact check. It's crazy. It is not. Fact check doesn't even tell you the truth neither. You know, they just want to throw some things up so you won't, so they can say, oh, you're lying. You know, that's why fiction is fiction and nonfiction. Nonfiction is almost the same as fiction. It's almost the same thing. You know what I mean? But they don't want to tell you the truth. They hate you learning about your past, you're learning about your history. Because black people are the only ones that don't know nothing about their history. So they can throw a fact check up anytime to keep you from not knowing anything about your ancestors. Even if you get all the valuable fucking proof that's given to you by your family, or even if you went to Africa and you had family that lived in Africa and gave you vital information and truth about your ancestors being African, you would not, African black people would not believe it, because the white man tells them it's not true. But it is true because your ancestors is giving it to you. And you're reading it from the book. But they will tell you, oh, that's not true. Let's do a fact check. Nigga, I don't care about a fact check. Fact checks are lies too. Whew. See, this is the reason why I believe YouTube takes me down and doesn't like me getting likes or comments, because I tell the truth about things that they don't like. They hate it so much. And not just YouTube, there's many other factors, and it goes all into it. It goes to anything as a website, because the truth does not make any money. You don't make money off truth. You make money off lies. That's why you see all these billionaires and trillionaires. They make so much money off the backs of people because they tell them lies. You know, like Donald Trump lies through his whole campaign, but he still got elected for president. Even Harris lied through her whole damn campaign, but she didn't get elected. But Trump did it better. He lied the best, because he did it the first time and he did it the second time. And the man's the president of the United States. And the man's the biggest liar, biggest pathological liar that ever lived as a president. Even people in his own cabinet say he's a fucking liar, and people still voted the motherfucker, because that's the way people love. Because people are so obsessed with lies. They dwell in it. Like the devil was here today. They said the devil's a liar. Even the devil hates a liar. That's the crazy part. The devil even hates a liar. But you'll say, well, the devil doesn't do shit. People are the only ones that make up their own choices of their own life and what they do and how they do it. We lie because we don't like the truth. That's just point blank. A lie is more comforting. It's more easy. It's more relaxing. It doesn't hurt more than the truth. The truth hurts so bad that you don't have to go after that person because that person told on you. And then you're waiting at his house or just front of the door so you could beat him up because that motherfucker lied. That motherfucker told the truth. And he didn't lie like you wanted him to lie or her to lie or a child to lie. Because even parents are even getting their own children to lie, for them. Now it's true you should be fibbing for your family because you should protect your family, but these motherfuckers are getting out of hand with this shit. People are stealing and lying and doing all this kind of, but it's so entertaining to see people get their heart broken and their feelings hurt. People love it. It's entertaining. That's why they show it so much on YouTube. People getting hurt, people getting shot, people getting, getting in trouble. It's something that we enjoy. We like to see other people's pain, other people's misery. You know what I mean? You think white people didn't like to see black people be miserable all the damn time during slavery? And even after slavery, haven't seen us miserable all the fucking time? So this is what they're saying today. We're enjoying everybody's misery because we're miserable. Us as humans are miserable. I mean, we're uneducated. We got the worst prison systems in the world, the worst criminal system in the world. Everything is against us, man. I mean, I'm not saying all white people bad because there's some good motherfucking white people out there. Great, intelligent, prideful white people. But it's the ones that really are the ones that's getting in the way, are the ones that just wants to see us fail. And it's crazy. We're living in the year 2020 fucking 5. We have not changed a bit. And we call this the future. How the fuck? We had only the internet for a couple of years. And we only had fucking cell phones for only 30 years. How is the future? How is this the future? Tell me. The laptop been out ever since the 1950s. The computer been out ever since the 1960s. Really, honestly, the 1900s, the first computer came out. So why the hell are we thinking we're living in this technology age? All this technology is new. None of this technology is new. It's just updated. The kids of this generation, think everything's fucking new. Well, my generation look at this shit like, God damn, this shit old. Like they doing repeated movies all the time, and they're playing the same damn movie over and over again because they have no screenwriters or directors or good story writers that write movies anymore. So they remake movies a billion times and thinking that my generation wants to see that damn movie again. No one is remade. It's not the same motherfucking people that played in the movie 40 years ago. We got these new actors that don't know how to act playing these roles in these movies. And all they're doing is saying the same lines that they said back 30 or 40 years ago. And we get all excited. Oh my God, the new movie's coming out. Oh my God, oh my God. What the fuck you talking about? I just seen that movie 30 years ago. They do the remake The Karate Kid like 15 times. They just did a remake this the bull. What's that movie called? Scratchy, Scrippy, whatever his fucking name is, that blue fucking bear monster thing. Sleeto and I think his name is Stitch. I think that's his name is. That movie came out. That was a cartoon. Then they got the last with the flying dragon, whatever. That came out at least about 14, I think 12 years ago. But they're doing it as a live making. Are you serious? Oh my God. And we think everything is fucking new. We celebrate everything that they remake. And it's crazy. Like, I was just watching X-Men. When I was watching X-Men, I was just watching the cartoon. I was watching the movie X-Men, and I went to watch the cartoon. When I watched the cartoon, I'm like, yo, the cartoon is the same thing as the movie. It's just if you look at the cartoon of Xavier doing certain things in the cartoon, he did it in the movie. And I'm like, yo, they actually took the cartoon and remade it out of the movie, but you would never know if you watched the cartoon. Like He-Man and all of them, they all and Thundercats, all of them are taken from the cartoon. Like Transformers was the same way. But if you never seen Transformers, you will never realize that they took the cartoon and made it into a movie and did the movie. They remade the movie from the cartoon, but they made them robots bigger and uglier. But people thought it was exciting. But I was like, it's the same motherfucking cartoon. You can turn a cartoon on and it be the same motherfucking shit, but it's a movie. It's real. It's like real animation. Real life animation. That's all they did was just reanimate into real life. But they had the same lines that they had in the cartoon. It's crazy. It's like we obsessed because we think everything is new. But we know that everything's not new to us in my generation and the generation before because we know everything's remade. Everything is fucking trash. Rap music is gone. Music is gone. You don't have no rap music anymore like that anymore. You don't have singers like that, like R&B singers anymore. We don't have no enjoyment anymore, dog. And they took that from us. But they say this for this new generation. Let them have it. I don't care. This is not my generation. This Generation Z's, Generation A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I think now they're normal rumor rules. I don't know what the fuck. They can have their generation. I don't want to be in their generation. They can have everything that they want. They can have this rap music. They can have everything they want in this generation. But let me have my past. Let me enjoy what I used to have. Because these kids are not going to care about my past. They don't care nothing about what we did back then. They try to destroy our past by talking that bad about our past. But they never lived it. But we want to live like them. I don't want to live like these kids. I don't want to live like these kids. These kids are trying to live like us. Because everything that they do, they copy off of us. But they don't realize it because they think it's their style. But they don't have a style. They don't have one. Yeah, they have these fucking people that can design, but that's not their style though. It's not. It's all us. They just copy off of ours and take it, and they think it is theirs. They're not. Nothing is theirs. They could have this generation. They could have everything. They could have this music. They could have this food. They could have these cars. They could have all this technology. They could have it all. Because once we die and once we're gone, they're going to be looking for our help. And we're not going to be around to help them. Because once they lose all this technology, which I believe they will lose this technology pretty soon, because technology is not going to last forever, they're going to lose all this technology and they're going to have to go back to the dark ages. Or they're going to have to live by means of being just using a landline or using a telephone booth or learning how to use a stove. But they're not going to know how to use any of that stuff because we're going to be gone. And they're going to have no, let's say look up online how to use a microwave, how to use a stove, which they're not going to do because these kids can't even cook. They don't even know how to use a microwave or they don't even know how to use a stove. They know how to use a cell phone, but they don't know how to use a damn landline or a telephone booth, which things they're going to have to use in the future because most of this cell phone shit and internet shit is probably going to die out. Or something might happen that they probably won't be able to use the internet again. Because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. That's life. And people think things are not going to happen, and it is. And people say, oh, they believe in Armageddon and all this bullshit. So why can't they believe that things are going to happen in the future that's probably going to be terrible for the new generation, what we went through when we were younger? And our families went through, and our grandmothers, and our grandfathers, our great-great-grandmothers, our great-great-grandfathers went through. They don't think that's going to happen to them? Hell no. This generation is going to fucking deal with that shit pretty soon. Their feet's going to be fucking hot at the flame. They're like, God damn, yo, this shit crazy. Where my grandma at? Oh, she's dead. Shit, I can't ask her how to use how to use a damn fucking landline. Because we learned all that shit already. We can adapt to any fucking thing. My generation can adapt to anything that, we run out of. Even though we're bitching complain about it for probably a couple of months or a year. But once we need to use other shit, we know how to already use it because we used it before. Because if they bring back the landline, we know how to use that shit. If they bring back the telephones that got the little circle, the circle tone, we know how to use that shit. We know how to use the telephone booth. We know you got to put 25 cents in the telephone booth or 50 cents. After 5 minutes, you got to put another quarter in. We know how to use the phone booths. If they brought them back. Because they're going to have to bring them back. Everybody think this internet shit, this Wi-Fi shit going to last for long. It's not. It takes only one little singularity. It's going to just do shit. It's going to make this shit not work no more. And like I said, we're going to be gone. And I told my daughter that too. I said, listen, once we're gone, y'all going to be fucking lost. My generation is gone. Y'all going to be fucking lost. I tell this generation all the time, don't worry, y'all going to be lost once my generation is gone. Because y'all don't know shit. Y'all still learning. Y'all haven't been around long. Y'all been around for like a decade or two. My generation's been around for at least about 5, 6, 7 decades. Even the baby boomers been around about 6 or 7 or 8 decades, 9 decades. They know shit more than you do. It's crazy. Y'all been around for 2 decades thinking y'all rule the world because y'all been around a decade or two. Y'all in your 20s. I'm in my 40s. I've been around for 4 decades. Like, come on. Going on 5 decades. Like, come on. Been there, done that. Don't care. One thing I care about is just Once if I die, I die. This is how it is. It's like we're not afraid. I'm not afraid to get old. I'm not afraid to, go to sleep at night and I don't wake up. I don't wake up. It just happens like that. But are the future of my generation, of my black generation, people want to wake up soon and be woke and stop being asleep? Please be woke. Stop being asleep. I might not keep this video up. I'm off this thing. Bless.